Russia holds the chips and the cards. They have the military advantage because Russia, despite the Western delusion that Russia is this imperial power keen on conquering the world, all that is a psychological projection by the United States, because Russia has not been out sending its military forces, its carrier task force to different countries around the world, launching marine amphibious invasions. That's been the United States. That's not Russia. Russia is contained, and Russia uses its military force for national defense. And from that standpoint, there's nothing that NATO and the United States could do short of declaring a complete mobilization, shutting down the economies, saying we're going to go on a war footing, we're going to invade Russia.
It's time to get your field game day ready.
So, give your lawn full coverage with Scott's Easy Seed. Sprinkle the seed.
Sorry, Larry. I mean,
impossible.
do you actually, do you rule out the United States actually, in effect, declaring a war economy? Just as you say, they've destroyed all this equipment that's been sent to Ukraine. So they say, okay, let's increase our production tenfold.
No, they can't.
You say it can't be done? It can't be done?
No. We don't have the industrial base anymore. This is not, the United States is not like it was in 1940, 1941, where you had a lot of idled workers. You had a bunch of factories that were around that were not functioning at any level because of the effects of the Great Depression. The United States is effectively deindustrialized. There are disincentives for the production of coal, production of oil, production of steel, production of aluminum, and increasingly the United States, the key metals, rare earth minerals that are required for producing more technological systems like computers and such, that's been exported overseas as well. So it's not like there's this flip that can be switched. In fact, I think if I read one study, I think it was by Russi in the UK, that there used to be, let's say, 5 factories to generate, just to produce ammunition in the United States alone for the US military. That's down to 1 now. So there is no they just can't magically turn it on. Whereas Russia's, and again, this is one of those things that's just bizarre, that the West has always presented Russia as this backwater, third world, hellhole that could barely rub 2 sticks together. And yet Russia's industrial capability exceeds that of the United States. And it's able to produce rocket engines. It's able to continue to produce caliber missiles, cruise missiles of a great variety. And again, another thing I know for a fact is US generals, based upon the intelligence back in April and May, were saying Russia's going to run out soon. They can't continue at this pace. No country has that much.
But Russia, their factories are working 3 shifts a day, 3 shifts a day. So what I find very, very strange, we had Scott Ritter on not too long ago. And if you know anything about Russian military history, I'm not an expert, I'm a novice, I like to read it. What they're best at is logistics. That's what they do. They do logistics. That's how they won the Napoleonic Wars. It was logistics, not just sheer mass of men. No, logistics. And it's being played out now. And that goes to this mobilization here, is that they calibrate and they calibrate. It's very interesting watching their decision-making process, because I think a lot of us, there's a bit of an impatience for an outcome. But again, they have the time, they have the clocks, they have the chips, they have the cards, okay? And it seems to me, I've come to the conclusion, maybe wrong, but I think there's the perception on the Russian side is that in a way, the longer the better, because we're seeing Europe fray in every single possible way. And it's only the end of September.
Well, right. Why should Russia look to get into let's put it in terms of two men who are opposing each other, your option is to walk into the room and start punching each other, get into physical confrontation face to face. Or if you can basically stand outside the building where your potential opponent is and set it on fire, and then let them worry about how to get out of the building on fire, which is the better option? I'd choose the fire, because then you're more in control of what's taking place. And that is, that's where I think Russia is right now, that they recognize. I think there's been an awakening process for them too during this process, because I think initially they may have been inclined to believe that the West actually had a plan, and that they had some secret cards that they were holding and that they would play against Russia. And candidly, I think I could see Putin and the generals sitting around going, surely they can't be this stupid. And my response would be, oh yeah, no, they absolutely can. You've underestimated their stupidity. And that's where people, they can't believe that. There's always the belief that there's some sort of secret plan behind the scenes, like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain pulling all the levers and turning on all the lights. And that in this process, that there's really some rabbit the West is going to pull out of the hat that will trap Russia, who is the equivalent of the Roadrunner now, and that the Wile E. Coyote will finally get the Russian Roadrunner. And it just ain't going to happen, because
there is a Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, there's still an aspect to it like this, that the United States has been gradually more and more involved in Ukraine. They've crossed one red line, they've crossed another red line, they keep sending more and more lethal weaponry. And there are two models that you can go back to, which is World War I and World War II. So you have Woodrow Wilson, he runs in 2016 promising no involvement in the war. No, absolutely not, we're not getting involved. FDR did the same thing. Now, in both cases, they were lying to the public, just as the Biden administration, which rules out, no, we're not going to get involved, absolutely not, no, we're staying out. Can one really be sure that they're not going to get involved, that they're not already somehow secretly making plans to get directly involved in Ukraine, just as FDR was making secret plans to get involved in World War II?
Well, come back then to ask the question: where are the resources? So, to get involved, they would need to do a variety of things. One, they would have to dramatically augment the number of personnel currently serving in the U.S. Army in particular. They don't have the ground forces. So to change that, there would have to be a draft or call up of some sort. And what we're seeing right now, in fact, is that the U.S. military in all branches, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, they can't recruit. They're having trouble attracting recruits, in part because they've been following this incredibly stupid woke agenda where they're more concerned about diversity and wokeness than actual military preparedness.
And maybe
So
keeping
you
Trump
would see
supporters out of the military, which is stupid in itself.
Yeah. No, I mean they have literally attacked the very base that has been the primary source of recruits for the military over the last 50 years. And I know a lot of these people that, they're telling their sons and grandsons, don't go, don't join, stay away. So you've got that. So, but I'm saying you would see the buildup. There would have to be a buildup. There would have to be the movement of troops in that direction. That doesn't happen overnight. There's this thing in the U.S. military. It's called JOPS, Joint Operations Planning Environment, and the whole JOPS process contains an element called the TIP-FID, the time phase forward troop deployment. So that you would start moving troops in a certain direction. That starts 8 months out at least, maybe 6 months. It doesn't happen in a week or two. So from the standpoint, we're not seeing the troop movement. So what else did they have? Well, how about aircraft carriers? Let's move aircraft carriers close to Russia. Good luck with that. Russia has hypersonic missiles, and the carriers have no defense to that. So might as well just like taking a big fat turkey that is ready to be slaughtered and having to walk out on a gun range. You know, people will fire away. What about their air capabilities? Again, NATO's got limited ability with both cruise missiles and with fixed wing aircraft, because thanks to George W. Bush, 2001, the United States had told Russia, oh, forget it, we're out of this anti-ballistic missile treaty. Forget it, we're going to show you. And what's happened? Russia has created the most robust air defense system of any country in the world, hands down. And best of all, it's been tested real world against real weapons and is performing very well. It's not perfect, but it sure beats the hell out of the other. And what does that mean? And I'm not advocating this, but it means Russia can fight and win a nuclear war. And why do I say that? Because Russia can launch its missiles and hit targets in the United States. The United States does not have any air defense system that can stop the Russian missiles, period. Russia, however, does have air defense systems that can shoot down ballistic missiles sent by the United States. And again, in raising that, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying it's a reality. As a military planner, you've got to take that into account. If the US military planners are ignoring that, they are fools. I don't think they're complete fools. I think there are at least one or two that recognize, we're playing a lopsided game here.
You serious?
We haven't even begun to.
Mutually assured destruction is not reality anymore. The Russians can really prevail in a nuclear war.
Yes, that's what I believe. I believe that's the case. Let's call it. It's now the myth of mutual assured destruction, and that began with the United States walking away from the ABM treaty, because up to that point, the ABM treaty did limit what each country could do in terms of developing missile defense systems. What happened is the United States was actually keen in 2001, prior to 9/11, the focus of the early Bush administration was on missile defense, which is one of the reasons that they withdrew from the ABM treaty. And then with 9/11, all of a sudden they turned to trying to fight Islamic insurgency and completely ignored the missile defense investment. Russia didn't. Russia, man, pressed the gas pedal down and took off, and has developed, you got from S-300, S-400, S-500, and it got also equipped itself now to fight a space war, take out satellites, because Russia is less dependent upon satellite technology for information control over the battlefield than the United States. And so, this can get, we can get into sort of three-dimensional chess here with the different iterations that could take place between ground combat, air combat, and space combat. But so with all of that off the board, I don't see where would the West, how would they do it? I don't see how they could do it, simply because they don't have the resources either in personnel or in equipment to carry out an effective attack. And then there's history. Every single country that's tried to invade Russia hasn't turned out so well.
Yeah, it's you get the impression they want to woke themselves to victory, woke themselves to to will Russia's defeat. Political facts are being created on the ground in Ukraine. These referendums are very, very important, and the rule of thumb here is on September 30th they will be inducted into the Russian Federation. That's a serious political fact that's been created, and there's hoopla about Russia and using nukes and all that. Again, this is intentional disinformation. I mean, it's very obvious their nuclear doctrine, it has not changed whatsoever, even if when these republics are part of the Russian Federation. Do you think that's going to be tested here one way or another? Because that's what really bothers me, because the way George and I have looked at it is that this is a very important demonstration effect, because once they become part of Russia, they will be defended. And it sends a message to other oblasts or regions in Ukraine. It can be done.
Right. Well, it is the West's inability to come to grips with reality. They're still in denial about Crimea, but
Yep.
Crimea is, you know, it's now under Russia's control. It's part of Russia, as it had been historically. But we're not going to that. So the West has not worked its way through this. They're going to sit there and insist, "Oh, we're not going to recognize you. You're not invited to our party." This is like the kind of crap that kids in high school, secondary education get into, where they form cliques and try to ostracize certain others, and then in the process hope to gain some leverage. Russia doesn't care. I think Russia's now come to the point where it doesn't care. It realizes everything we've tried to do to get along with these people, all the gestures we've made, the ways we've tried to cooperate, completely rejected. Or maybe it's more like someone who's been trying to woo a particular romantic partner, and finally recognize, no matter how many flowers I buy, how much candy I bring, or how much jewelry I buy, they have no interest in me. So, well, I'll go and find something else.